Welcome. Today we're going to talk about, I don't even know how many rules it is. Wrong screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of rules I live my life by, although I don't like that title because Jordan Peterson is an idiot and he kind of stole it with his book. Talking about some of the things that I just decide not to opt into, or I decide that I'm going to opt into to be a better person. Before we dive into that, a few ways you can support the channel. You can become a YouTube member, get some videos early. Like this one, YouTube members will actually get this video a week early. As soon as I produce it, I put it up for them, and then I schedule it for you guys, everyone else, after. You can take one of my courses on Skillshare, curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, or you see links to them all below. Join me on Discord. It's a pretty quiet channel. That's it. Let's buckle up and look at some of my operating procedures. Maybe that's better. Number 1, I do not argue about zebras. So what does that mean? Ultimately, it means I do not argue about statistical impossibilities. This comes from, honestly, what does it be, 99, 2000, when I took a first aid course, and they said everyone's allowed one zebratic question. And the explanation was that every once in a while when you're walking around, this was in Ontario, you'll see a zebra. But it's like super, super rare. Almost never happens. It's always a horse or some other four-legged cow, something like that. So in Canada, I don't argue about zebras. I will not argue about, what's the one recently? Someone was saying, oh, I can't believe you use a metal brush on your barbecue. Like, people die from this. And there's been 2 people this year, and I'm like, oh, how many people died from a car? Like, I'm not even going to entertain this. Like, sure, when I have an option, we did buying a new brush and they had wooden ones, I said, oh, buy a wooden one. Like, why not? But I'm not going to, like, change my entire workflow because, like, 2 people, there's a news report about this. That's zebras. That's it. And honestly, the news only deals in zebras. The news deals in attention, deals in, like, here's this amazing thing that totally happened to this one person. You know, billions of people were totally fine. Like, so I don't argue about zebras at all, ever. If you are so concerned about that metal brush for your barbecue, you should also never drive your car because it is far more dangerous than a barbecue brush. Next up, good rule of thumb is the other side is not dumb. I'll start with a quote from The Death of Expertise, page 25. Americans no longer distinguish the phrase you're wrong from the phrase you're stupid. To disagree is to disrespect, to correct is to insult, and to refuse to acknowledge all views as worthy of consideration, no matter how fantastic or inane they are, is to be closed-minded. Death of Expertise. So this comes at many points for me. I also, kind of a sub-procedure here is I will treat arguments with the, the emotional weight, the intellectual weight they deserve. So if they're really stupid, then that's what they get. They get a laugh, and I move on. Now, no one really wants to be called stupid, but the truth is you can have a well-reasoned argument with someone you disagree with and actually dive into it with them. It's very easy to fall into what's called false consensus bias, and that is that everyone agrees with us and they all see the same news we do and they agree with us. But because of algorithms like search engines, Facebook, if you use that, all those things, because they tailor to what we want to see, we really do not see the same information all the time. And then a companion to that is confirmation bias and disconfirmation bias. So this is where we look up information that confirms our point and give it more weight, and then we look away from information that does not confirm our way of viewing things, and we give it less weight. So we are easily putting ourselves stronger and stronger into a filter bubble where we only see opinions that we agree with and where we never engage with someone who doesn't agree with us. Now, there are a few ways that I combat this. Number 1 is to try and explain what I think about something, an idea, to a 10-year-old. That's my oldest daughter right now. And it is amazing, and actually cited in the Data Detective page 272, 273, where it's amazing how when you really start to dive into something, you start to explain it to someone, you realize how little you understand. And in the Data Detective, it actually talked and showed some studies saying that people are less likely to be polarized if they're really asked to explain it, because they realize they don't explain some basic concept, like how do you fix a toilet, right? How, like, some basic thing that we all think we can do, and you have to break it down piece by piece. You're like, I really don't know what I do here. And you are more likely to admit that you don't understand and more open to other opinions that may contradict yours. Another really good way that I combat this is when I am investigating any new topic, I start with the points I am least likely to agree with. So I grew up in a fairly strict Christian household. There were certainly the undercurrent, this was never said to me, but the undercurrent that it would be better if I beat my wife than if I was gay. So the LGBTQ plus community was something that was just this horrid thing that you stay far away from it, and they're just terrible people. So in my 30s, I decided I really needed to investigate my own opinions on this and start digging into it. And the first thing I did was talk to my local used bookstore, the Bookman, and I know she is a big champion for LGBTQ plus rights. And I said, what are, this is my upbringing. We've known each other for a long time. I buy lots of books there. Everybody knows me by first name. What 4, 5, 6 books do you think I should read? Do you have good recommendations for me? And I bought those books and have been reading those books. In fact, there's one book, it's on my shelf. What's it called? Irreversible Damage, which I understand is about how letting a young child be transgender is really bad for them. That's it. I have not read anything past this. That's like the cover, the synopsis. That's the one that said, hey, I need to dig into this more. And I've read all the books that I would not normally agree with. And I have drastically changed my opinion, which was already far more open than I ever grew up with, but is now just, kind of whatever. Why do I care? And we should never treat people like jerks. So I'm totally fine with it. My kids, when we talked about how I grew up, that it was very terrible to be LGBTQ plus, they were like, really? Why? And I was like, I don't even know. I tried to explain it to them, but it helped me in investigating a topic that I am digging into from the other side, in air quotes, is far better use of my time than just looking at confirmation bias. So I've read 7 or 8 books from the LGBTQ community, talking about from memoirs to here's how you address the LGBTQ plus community. I've actually reviewed a few of them, and I have enjoyed every one of these books, and they have helped me be a better person. They help me be a better person, because I am definitely do not agree with my upbringing on this. Another really good way to help break yourself out of thinking the other side is dumb is, especially when you're sharing content online, ask yourself why you're sharing it. Are you sharing it because it just confirms your intellectual superiority? Or are you sharing it because you said, this made me think about my opinion? And if it didn't make you think about your opinion, why on earth are you really sharing it? Look for articles, look for content that is going to make you question your beliefs. And even if you still say, I've read this, it made me think more, but I still believe what I did at the beginning, fine, share it. But don't share stuff that's just falling into your confirmation bias. That is just not great. Disclaimer at the end here, I am not by any means saying that you need to involve yourself in a conversation in a deep sharing session with a racist, misogynistic person, homophobic person at all. You should not. We do not enter into conversations about that. But there's a lot of other areas in life where we opt out of any real conversation and just look for people that are like us. Next up, tied fairly closely to what we just talked about, is that the internet helps us think we're right. The internet is a confirmation bias machine, a disconfirmation bias machine. It will continue to pump out through its algorithms things that we want to see because they make us feel better about ourselves. In fact, in The Death of Expertise, it talks about the internet being an inexhaustible list of facts that help us back up any opinion we want. We can just find more and more facts on it and keep diving deeper and deeper into those facts so that any truth, whether or not they're facts or real, any truth is actually buried and any discussion is actually buried under our inexhaustible list of showing you how smart we are, or I am. One good thing to remember in this is that the internet is an inexpensive vessel to have anyone share any opinion, right? Even me, maybe you follow this, maybe you have been a long-time follower of me, and so you have some trust in me that you followed, I don't even know how many books I reviewed, hundreds of books probably at this point. But outside of that, you have no verification of any credentials. I am not an expert in race relations and anything I'm talking about. I'm just sharing how I try to be a better person. The only thing I'm an expert in, we're actually going to get to expertise in a minute, is a 10-year web developer. I've been building WordPress sites for 10 years. That's where I'm truly an expert. Biking, probably, because I've been a cyclist since I was 14 and I'm 41 now. Or traveling in the mountains, especially in Chilliwack, British Columbia, because I have been spending in the mountains here for 20 years. From kayaking to biking to climbing to running to those are my areas of expertise where I really can shine. Everything else is me trying to be a better person and guessing, to be honest. So now one great example of this, you need to test something yourself, and we need to go back and find the research that the internet is based on, because often it's a really circular loop where there's no actual research and it's just so-and-so said it and so-and-so said it, and finally get back to the first citation, is the idea that multiple monitors make you more productive. I've looked up every study I can find on it, and every single one is basically I have content in spreadsheet A and I want to move it to spreadsheet B. And for that, multiple monitors, absolutely, I believe it's more productive. I do not believe it's more productive necessarily, because I haven't seen the evidence, when you're using your computer like most people do. Multiple windows open, multiple notifications around. I have a hard time believing that it's truly more productive in that instance, unless you're highly disciplined, unless you really only focus on the things you should be. I think for most people, multiple monitors introduces a lot of distractions from their real work. So if you're going to find an internet source, make sure that you dive in and really understand the context, understand what the person has to offer, what the source has to offer, and then find their sources. And on that note, in the written version, there's links everywhere for like citations and sources for you to look up later. Next up, I will always ask the question. There's an awkward part in many relationships and many times of you being anywhere where you've been there long enough that you feel you should understand something. You should know, at work, this abbreviation for a client. I should know that SS stands for Senior Solutions, but I don't. I've always got to think about it. And right, or even when I was at CrossFit, I've been there for 3 or 4 months, and someone's like, let's run this loop. And I said, I don't know where this is. And like half the people also said, I don't know where it is either. But they had been there longer than me. They were just shy and didn't want to answer. They figured they'd figure it out as they went. So this is especially easy for me because I'm a white dude, middle-aged white dude. Like I got like everything going for me. So it's especially easy for me to expend some type of social capital, even at work, because I'm a manager, right? And in theory at less risk than someone new, than a woman, than a minority group that we may work with, because I'm a white dude, unfortunately. So I will always expend my social capital to ask the question. If I don't understand something, I will just say, hey, I'll ask, that's it. I will ask the question. I'll ask the question every time, even if I'm asking again, even if I'm asking for the 15th time, I will always ask the question. I may even know the answer, but if I am unsure that everyone does, I will ask the question so that I expend the personal, political capital, whatever it is, on that. Finally, we touched on this. Expertise in one area does not equal expertise in all areas. Great example of this, Jenny McCarthy. I think it was Jenny McCarthy, the famous actress that said, vaccinations give my children ADHD and like all these other things. And you know what? Nothing has come of this. She's retracted her statements now. But we gave her a whole bunch of weight because why? She's an actress. The only thing that we should listen to her about is how to be an actress. The only thing that we should listen to an author about is like the book they actually wrote or how to write. That's it. Anything else, they are really guessing. They have no other expertise. In fact, maybe the only thing you should listen to me about is WordPress stuff, because that's it. Like, that's really what I dive into. That's my 10 years of experience. Like I said, cycling, WordPress, outdoor stuff, that is my expertise for real. Maybe I'm starting to gain some expertise in thoughts like this as I've spent the last 4 or 5 years reading about it and trying to examine myself. But ultimately, just because you're famous doesn't mean you have expertise in any other realm outside of whatever you're famous for, right? Remember that when some famous person says something, the first thing you need to do is, okay, well, what are they actually famous for? What are they known for? And does that lend any weight to the idea that they're talking about? Because most of the time it lends no weight whatsoever, and you should not be listening to this person. That's it. Those are the operating procedures that I use to kind of run my life in part. So I'm going to have 3 book recommendations. One is The Data Detective, excellent book, I reviewed that. Another one is Death of Expertise, excellent book, and I've reviewed that as well. The other one is Getting Naked, but search Getting Naked book. It's a Patrick Lencioni business book, and one of my favorite ones in that is that I will always ask the question because someone else doesn't understand something. It's a great book. It's a brand own consulting company, but it's also just a good book. That's it. If you like the video, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, so YouTube lets you know, but turn off your notifications. You don't actually want them. Become a YouTube member, take one of my courses on Skillshare. There's links to everything below. Try to behave yourselves today. Thanks for watching. This was probably a long one.